Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. This Thursday, we have a very special live stand-up show happening at the studio in LA. There's only 20 tickets available, so please jump on it as soon as you can. Tickets for that show and all future shows are on our website, comedypopupla.com. All right, let's start the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. I am your host, Paul Antonio. We're doing it. I'm back in for Ron G. I think Ron is legitimately missing at this point. He hasn't been on like the last 5 episodes or something, so I'm just trying to earn my stripes, man. I'm trying to get that promotion.
Is there an alert? I got a text alert recently. If you've seen a Honda Civic license plate 8532, he was last seen in that.
Find his Prius.
Doesn't everyone have that car?
Yeah, I guess if you get a Honda Civic, they're just like there's plenty of room in the hatchback to put a couple kids in. Like it's a selling point because it seems to be that's the car that steals kids all the time.
Yeah.
You guys ever go to like an open mic and you just see a bunch of Civics and Accords in the parking lot? You're like, oh, the list is gonna be long. It's gonna be a long list. Let me introduce you guys. I have 2 amazing comic guests for you guys as we try to bring the most.
As you can tell already, I mean, we've been so funny in these.
Oh, I was wondering who the 2 were. I was like, who's
when
coming
did we get to meet him?
Me and Nick and Daniel will be interviewing us. Continue. You get demoted to interviewer. That's funny.
That fast, huh?
All right. Well, that latest voice that you heard, you've seen this dude on Hulu. He was a finalist on Comedy Central's Up Next competition. He wanted to make me point out that he was not on Comedy Central proper.
Well, the promos were, so technically I was.
Let it just take it, own it.
Yeah.
He has a 1-hour
I write
special
for
on
Comedy Central.
There it is.
There it is.
He's a writer. You know him from Bigfoot Chasers?
Do they know me from that, though?
Yeah. I plugged this show in the comment section of every Bigfoot Chasers YouTube.
Oh, good. We're up
video.
to 3 comments now.
Also, you've heard him on SiriusXM. Please welcome to the show, Daniel Eachus. Yeah. Do
I have to say something here?
No.
Okay, good.
You don't have to say anything for the rest of the show.
Oh, perfect.
You have accomplished all of your responsibilities for this podcast.
Good. I have emails to check. So.
Got to get that hot anchor bar spot. Yes. All right. And our second guest, you've seen him on Conan, Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. He was one of the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival breakouts the first year that he did it from St. Louis, Missouri. Please welcome Nick Vatterott.
I got a, people will say like Jimmy Fallon, so they'll go like Tonight Show. And then like I'll go, it's actually not Tonight Show, it's actually Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. So that's like the equivalent of the Comedy Central thing. And then after like the first 100 times, I was like, nobody gives a shit. Yeah. Nobody cares. I'm always just like, it's actually, I just want to give the appropriate.
Right.
And then they're like, doesn't matter, dude. Posters are already made. Like, all right, fine.
Yeah, I do that. I wrote on a show produced by Kevin Hart, which is like the longest credit to ever give anybody. And I'm like, oh, I'm a writer for a series produced by Kevin Hart. And they're always like, hey, it's Kevin Hart. It's Kevin Hart. No, wait.
You become Kevin Hart. That's the biggest joke. And you like want to clarify, but after a while, it's like, just let it go. You know?
Please. So Daniel, I got to bring it first, is someone that I think you're the comic that I've known the longest.
Yeah?
Yeah. And it all started in a little library study room at Cal Poly Pomona.
It was a nice library, too.
It wasn't bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you needed your ID card to get into this library. There was only one door, but still, like the security was maximum.
Oh, I felt comfortable, and that's important.
This is at a college?
This is at a college. So I used to run my college radio station, and the very first person that I ever interviewed was Daniel.
Oh, nice.
The very first person.
I was doing improv a lot more at the time, and I had a new improv group. And then we were like, let's just cold email a bunch of college radio stations and try to get people out here. And I think you were one of the first. Mm-hmm. And you were like, yeah, sure, man, come on out. I'm like, sweet. And so I think I went with my buddy, right? Or was it just me?
No, you went with your buddy.
Yeah,
from buddy. Fullerton, right?
Yeah, he was in. Yeah, he
something
lives there.
Bacon? What was the?
Bacon was the name of our group. Yeah,
I remembered. I need points for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was so new.
You remember that?
It was so new that I needed to buy equipment before I got there that day.
Like radio equipment?
Yeah.
Like 3,000 foot tower.
I brought a satellite dish with me, carried it in on my back. And after we did the interview, it was great. It sounded great, everything. And then after I listened back to it, and it was just like, so we lost that interview forever. So If anybody out there was listening,
None in our hearts.
Yeah. If anybody's listening to Cal Poly Pomona radio station at 6 p.m. October 2013,
Some guy.
Yeah.
Finally, my tape's paid off.
that's the one I lost. So thank you for doing this again. The studio's a little nicer than it was back then.
It doesn't have all the books, but it.
Yeah, we're very anti-book in the studio.
And I'm a lot less comfortable at this one. So
Sitting next to Nick, not sitting next to Bacon.
yeah,
Your Bacon buddy. That's funny. And
which
Nick,
is no more, by the way.
Short form improv.
We were like a mid-form group.
Oh, what's mid-form?
There was the only way
Hybrid.
I know it. Yeah, it is.
It's really slow short form.
It's the Prius of improv.
it's a hybrid of like Long and.
Yeah,
the Chevy Volt of comedy.
exactly.
It's a new choice, but in Herald form.
No, it's the way I know it was a game called Pretty Little Flower, where you're basically all sitting around like in some sort of location, like a coffee shop. Everybody's got a job, and you're sort of like doing a lot of flashbacks and telling a story through flashbacks or whatever, but you always end up back in that location.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was like I think we did like a 30-minute show.
I just found out that my improv group, I went to University of Missouri in Columbia, Mizzou, and we have our 20-year, like the 20-year anniversary of the improv group that we started there. It's
wow.
this year or something.
It's still going?
It's still going after 20 years,
Jeez.
which is insane. Which is like when I was there, like anything that was there 20 years beforehand was from another era. It might as well have been like,
Yeah.
like Shakespeare, Victorian era. 20 years is just so crazy long.
Yeah.
And now it's like, whoa.
Did they invite you back?
They say I got like some email from somebody. It's on a Wednesday, so that's the most convenient day of the week to fly.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't know how to get a hold of him. That we only have his pager number.
And I got that turned off months ago.
That MySpace message is coming in.
Yeah.
Maybe even pre.
Dude, that happened to me. Where was I? I was at the Ontario Improv, and this lady, she's kind of older lady, and I'm leaving. I had to leave early, and she's like, Daniel, hey, and it was one of those things like. I thought I was supposed to know who she was. I was like, oh, good to see you, but I had no idea. And then she writes me on Instagram later, and she's like, I don't know if you remember me, but we were friends on MySpace, and I always wanted to see you perform, and I finally got to see you.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's like, God, she was probably like 30 back then.
So that's what happens with all those people who message you saying they want to see you.
Exactly.
Just let it marinate for 10 years, and maybe they'll eventually come out to a show.
How was the show? Do you feel like it was worth the wait?
No, I think I was doing a guest spot, and no, not at all.
I've had a couple times where people have been like, it's like,
Yeah.
I came out to see this it's like always like a weird show. It's like some like bookstore show with 5 people there.
Like, we drove from Nevada.
Yeah.
No, no.
Did this and then I found out afterwards, and it's like, oh, I did new stuff.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, this is why I don't have more fans.
That's a good go-to though. If you have a bad show, I was just doing new stuff.
Yeah.
Even though it's like
Perpetual
always-
new stuff. Oh, I was just working on bad stuff tonight.
Yeah.
I was taking my worst material and seeing if I could make it even dumber than it was. I'm sorry you came on that particular night.
Yeah.
just checking topsoil for gold. You're like, that's pretty much all you're doing. Nick, you actually have the funniest tweet that I like. It's just so close to my heart. I love this tweet so much, and this show doesn't believe in transitions, but I love this tweet so much that it literally changed. Like my brother changed all his usernames. So the tweet was that dick pic is short for Richard Pictures. And that is one of the funniest things I've ever read in my life. And literally all my brother's usernames are now Richard Pictures.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Was that just like on a whim thing or like?
I don't know where I think it was one of those high thoughts, and like, I think I was making a joke about how dick is short for dick pictures. That's where it started.
Yeah.
And I was trying to make a joke about that. I was like, oh, actually, dick pic is actually short for dick pictures. Or I just like the idea of I always say dick pictures instead of pics. And then I was like, well, then dick And then I was like, what?
Richard.
Dick, yeah, Dick is obviously Richard then. So then that was funnier than yeah.
I feel like the only reason I actually I want to be famous and successful is so people can go back and look at some of the tweets that got no favorites that I was really proud of.
Oh, yeah.
And actually favorite them. It's like
Right.
my goal in comedy.
Do you like
stalk you?
It's so funny because right now you like I don't know, like sometimes it's great to hear that somebody liked a tweet because it can get very disappointing and just like because you feel like, I've had a couple nowadays. I feel like you have a tweet and then if it does get any traction, I'll like just lose 5 followers instead of like I don't know if anyone's following anybody anymore. I don't know. And then you see like you got your Twitter superstars that are just like, and it's like I hate warm milk, and then it's like the internet blows up. Your computer is like got fire coming out of the side of it, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I need to dumb my shit down a little bit.
Yeah.
37,000 retweets.
Yeah, over like Mondays, am I right? And you're like, God damn it! Like these Garfield level sweatshirt sayings, are like destroying the internet. Meanwhile, I'm like trying to like write jokes and shit or whatever. I do like the idea of people sending each other like just like you see some girl and then you just send them a picture of Richard Gere. I also think it's funny to just the idea of a world where guys are just sending pictures of other Richards and just like, yeah, right.
Well, this is kind of off topic, but it's not. I'll get around to it being on topic. But did you do do you have an iPhone? Yeah, do you have an iPhone?
Hell yeah.
Did you do the new update?
No.
There's a new update that has it's got an app that now like comes with the phone now for measuring.
I saw that, yeah.
And like that you for sure. So basically, like you can just measure things by taking a picture of it and it'll show you how long it is. Like, how is that not gonna be bad for every dude sending a dick pic? I go, really? Like,
it has to have like qualifiers, like with the fat pushback, or something like that.
I always get tiny quarters made. And I get tiny quarters. I put them behind my dick. I get a little tiny. I get my hands reduced, and to put that perspective. Because when you just put your dick, if you make a dick pic and it's just like to the sky or the ocean, there's no, you can't tell.
I just always list everything in meters, and no one wants to do the math. Yeah,
I convert my dick to the speed of light, and people are like, I don't even know. And I was like, right.
Just complicated equations.
Yeah, it's just like a beautiful mind trying to crack the size of a cock.
F of X equals. I don't want it. I just buy like dollhouse parts and stuff, and it just looks like my dick's attacking a house. That's all I do. I feel like it's effective. By the way, Nixon is my go-to.
Nixon? Oh yeah, that's a great dick pic. Yeah, great dick pic.
Oh man, I went on this like whole tangent thing, like I've only been doing comedy like a couple years, but like lately I've just been talking about sending dick pics.
Yeah,
and stuff. Like I'm just stuck on that, and I can't get away from it. And I'm like, I really need to submit to this festival. Wait, all of my materials about dick pics.
Well, here's my question. It's really happening, right? Like, this is a thing I've never done. This is a thing I see, people talk about, and I'm just like, well, it has to be doing it. Am I like a square,
For not doing it?
I haven't done it, but there was this is a few years ago. He's probably not listening. My roommate, I had to borrow his phone. I forget why. I think he had like a better camera or something.
Oh no!
Yeah, and I needed to take a picture of something in the hat, and I go to use it, and it went to his whole photo album, and the very last picture was it, and I'm like staring at it because I wasn't expecting it. I'm just like, what is that? I was like, oh my god! So better, people are doing it.
It's better though that it was his dick and not like your dick while you're sleeping. Like, snuck in and took a pic. What you should have done was just send that picture to whoever you're talking to.
Well, I guess now that I think about it, I thought it was his dick, but maybe it was. Maybe it was a saved. Maybe
It's like it's your dick, but little tiny doll parts perspective next to it. And
has those little baby hands attached to it.
You're like, oh, this is terrible. At least he gave it some perspective. I used to go to this place in Chicago before I had a computer, and it was like a little internet cafe, like that small window when that was a thing. And I went in and I had to send a headshot to some casting thing or whatever. And I get it.
You sent the wrong head?
It's well, sort of. So it's like 10:30 or whatever. I go in there, and there's just a guy in there, just looking at dicks, just scrolling through like it was like JPEGs of dick after dick after dick on this computer, and he's just like kind of just. I love like kind of boredly scrolling through them all, you know, like, and he's just looking at all these dicks, and I was just like, that's so. Also, 10:30 such a weird like he was up and if I didn't have to send this, I'd still be sleeping, but this guy's like, I gotta get going, I gotta look at dicks, I gotta be looking at dicks by noon, otherwise my whole day's gone. And so then I went over, paid my money for the computer, sat down on my computer. Sent myself an email or whatever I did. I downloaded the headshot onto the computer. And then when I went to attach it, I had to scroll through all of the pictures on the computer to find the headshot. And now I'm scrolling through all these dicks on this computer as somebody walks by and sees me. And I'm like, is that just all we are? No one's looking at these dicks. We're trying to find the thing that we looked at. But I guess that was sort of a little bit before phones, and maybe that's how that was the old way to send dick pics, is email, maybe.
Yeah. Oh God, that's even weirder. Having to use like a digital camera.
Get
the flash.
Yeah, get someone to hold it for you.
There's so much thought that just goes into it. You're like, you got to maintain that boner for a long time.
Yeah.
It was like, so I have a new bit about how like people used to sex like before the internet and everything. Like they used to send letters. And shit. And it's like, that's like
describing.
That's like a week, but in between, like it's like it takes a week, then they open it, then they respond. I was like, you had to buy a stamp. Like fuck that shit. That's an extra 35 cents.
You know, they used to, you know, those like, you know, like I'm African prince that needs that scam. You know, that scam's been around since like the 1800s.
Really?
Yeah, they used to like instead of getting this thing in your spam folder that was like, I'm a Nigerian prince and I need this money and or whatever, they used to just mail it to people. And I was just like, they had to have been so happy when the internet came along because of the overhead of envelopes and stamps and just mailing it out. So
it was an investment.
Yeah, it was a real investment before. You know? It's just so funny to me, just like cranking them out. 8153 Stone Street, 855 Stone Street, 85 just. I don't know, man. That's so funny to me. What a dumb scam.
You just mail a pouch of coins. You're like, this will triple my investment.
Also, were they just guessing the street?
I guess so. I can't imagine. I don't know.
This works.
Yeah, putting Africa as a return address because they couldn't have been sent from Africa. I don't know I don't know, man. That's
return to Africa. Just send it to the continent. We'll get it somehow. Everybody's connected.
The one guy with a mailbox.
That's hilarious.
It would have been so easy to scam people back as long as you had a seal. You know, for an envelope, you could send anything.
I almost wonder if like that would be a better way to do that scam now is to send a real handwritten note and, you know, put a candle wax seal on the.
Because then you know for sure only old people are reading it. And,
or maybe they're like, well, he put his heart into it, like how girls prefer when you call them instead of text them.
Yeah.
Like that's the calling instead of texting of scams.
Is that real?
I think it's real. Yeah,
people 100%. Like calling instead of texting.
Yeah, I think it's just people.
Well, I think my generation too, because it's like, oh, a text is so simple. I want you to talk to me. It's like I don't want to talk to anybody.
I don't like calling.
I call a lot because I do it all. I feel like my car is my office half the time, and I'm just like not text. I'm just like, let me call because I'm driving.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you get a girl's number, is the move to call or text?
Text.
Yeah.
Yeah, at first.
Because you seem kind of like a psychopath if you call, right?
Yeah.
You're like, we have this other invention to get to know me. It's like, damn, I don't know.
And you know, there's like a 99% chance she's not going to answer, right? So then it's like, what, I could leave a voicemail? I'm like,
yeah, and what are you going to describe your dick over the phone? I mean, you can't send a dick pic over a phone call, you know? I mean,
hey, we need to be inclusive to blind people, all right? You got to describe ridges.
Yeah, get them all.
I don't think I know it that well. I have to stare a little longer.
I also like the idea of like in between like things, I can just like do something else for 10 minutes. You know, like in a text message, if she's like, well, he's like, oh, yes, whatever dumb question, you know, be like, cool, well, I'm gonna go like walk outside and smoke a joint and then like come back inside, play a video game for a minute and then get back to this. This thing. Yeah. And that's totally fine. Yeah. But you can't do that in a phone call.
Yeah.
That sounds like prison.
You just take a pause in a phone call. Hold up here. Let me put you on hold real fast.
I gotta be distracted for 10 minutes. I gotta look at my Facebook for no reason.
That's funny. And it actually works in your favor because if you send a text like right away, you look like a psychopath.
Yeah, I don't, and I also like when people get older, I came up in the swingers generation, you know, you gotta wait 7 days or whatever, you know? I feel like as people get older, like, I don't know if people are as into that, like, I think there's this sensibility of like, I don't have as much time as I used to. I don't have 8 days to figure out if this relationship is going to be a thing or not, you know? So I mean, am I wrong? Is it? Is that still a thing? Like, wait 7 days, you know, before you like call somebody back, text somebody back.
I don't think that's. I feel like they would, because that's how on Tinder. And if you wait too long on Tinder, you have and then it'll like dissipate if you don't write anything for a few days.
You can't play it cool on Tinder.
Yeah, like somewhat, but it's very.
Your dick has to be the second message that you send.
You wait that long?
Yeah, that's your big opener.
No, mine's my profile picture.
You get a profile dick. Yeah. And it's from the side too. So it's like, oh, this is a clever guy.
I
Flattering
updated
angle. Like, that's a unique curve. All right. Yeah. Let's keep it
wearing
going.
a little tux.
I like before when you were like something, because that's how you get it hard when you take the picture. And I love the guys like, hard, that's what I should be doing. I'm sending it flaccid. I'm sending it fresh out of a cold bath.
Just looks like a head attached to my body.
Yeah.
A little zit.
Little turtle head peeking out of a molehill.
They're like, I'm not a dermatologist. I can't cure your mole.
I don't know what that is. Did you try popping it?
That's so funny. Well, there's this thing in LA too where like people move so fast out here that it's like if you like meet somebody and you don't message them in a couple of days, it's like they're already blowing the neighbor or something like that. You know?
Yeah.
You can't really control that.
I wonder too if there's so many like, you know, especially just as guys, I feel like we're just so used to like, I gotta put all these feelers out because girls just deny us so many times that like nowadays just with the internet and everything, like there's so many more options that I feel like people are just quicker because they know that I don't know.
I'm gonna jump on the app and I'm gonna jump on this and somebody here. Yeah, I guess. I think the thing that like the one that really gets to me is like the unsolicited dick pic. Like setting, because there's people, and I used to think like I thought it was a myth too. And then I have a friend that does it, and he told me his thinking behind it. He's like, sometimes you just gotta show them. I'm like, what does that mean? That's insane to me.
But you also don't.
Right?
You also don't have to, like all the time. You don't have to.
I'm just paranoid that shit will end up like as like a cover photo on Twitter or something like that.
Yeah, maybe we should try combining that with the African Prince thing. I'm an African Prince. See,
Then a follow-up dick pic.
We'll just see if it all gets together. All right. Well, you guys are working comics, touring comics. Do you prefer doing shows like in the city or nearby, like your home, or do you prefer going out on the road?
Well, you get paid on the road. You get paid by your home. You talking about like this home, LA home?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
it just depends on where. I think for me,
Home shows are generally more fun. It just depends, you know, because when you do home has been St. Louis, Chicago, New York, LA. Those tend to be more, the shows you do close to those bases are generally more comedy savvy audiences than, you know, Baba Banana Buddies, you know, Laugh Emporium, you know, in
How'd you know my new venue name?
Yeah, it's pretty. I love the new novelty gloves you're selling on the site. That's a very goofy place you have over there. But like
banana hats.
Yeah, the banana hats are great.
Every audience member has a banana hat.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so those some of my favorite shows are like, I don't know. They're just two different shows. I feel like you're doing club shows on the road. I would love to get to a point where I'm getting to do like cool rock venue places where comedy savvy fans are coming out, and you know I get to do an act closer to what I would do near home than I would in a mall in in Iowa or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely, because it's like, well, the road is like your money.
Road's money, but I can't be like, I'm not out there with a family that's just like, this is our first time out in 6 months. We have a babysitter that we'll be checking a phone on all night to make sure everything's okay. We got in a fight at dinner, and and I'm just like, hey, how about I challenge the conventions of what stand-up comedy can be? And they're like, not on my time, man. I gotta like just laugh at the world and then get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And but then like I feel like you get in these comedy savvy cities or whatever, and it's like if you're just like men and women, then they're like, ugh.
Yeah.
So they want to see something a little more interesting.
I think too, at least for me, it depends how I feel about my material at that moment. Because I don't know, I've actually heard the opposite, but for me, I tend to, I don't know, at home it's like mostly new stuff, and on the road it's like what I know works. Even though I'll tend to write more on the road, I'm like performing old stuff most of the time, and so it's like if I'm tired of doing the old stuff, then it's like, oh God, I just want to go work on new. But then sometimes none of the new stuff is working. You're like, I just want to go do a set and do well.
It's nice to have a greatest hits, Bruce Springsteen. It's nice to just pull out the greatest hits and just crush for an hour.
Yeah.
Be the best comic you could possibly be. Yeah, I mean, it's like working out versus getting in the ring, I guess.
Yeah. The training for the performance, and then kind of like, although you always kind of have to be on it, like with local shows and stuff, but still, that answer makes a lot of sense. If you guys could change one thing about the current comedy scene, what would it be? Maybe something that you're unhappy with, or it could be anything.
Well, hopefully it's something I'm unhappy with. I mean, I think this is working, and I want to change it.
I mean, I don't even know where I could begin. I could talk about that for like an hour.
Well,
let's get into it. We got time to kill.
Well, it's tough because I feel like any changes that I would make would just be making it easier for me to kill personally. Where but that would probably hurt other comedians that are funny.
You say set things up in your favor,
right? Yeah. If I
more
had to
straight white
something.
males. that's
exactly.
Yeah. More
that
straight
would
white
help
male
me,
headliners.
right? I don't know.
I mean, you could talk about like what's happening in comedy. You could talk about what comics are doing or what the industry is sort of like being pulled towards, or you could talk about how comedy clubs are ran or the whole thing is ran. I mean, there's just so much I would want to change. I would love a tangible way to break into comedy. I hate how nebulous it is. I hate that if you're like a stand-up comedian, it's just like, great, you're funny. Okay, you're standing in the middle of a field being like, well, I don't even know where the door is. Comedy clubs can be very frustrating, especially in like these cities where you're just like, it's I think there's like, because I also it's not just like personal frustrations, but like talking to comics all the time that are like super funny. I remember I had a comic who was just like, one time they're like, you should go on the road, and he was like, I would love to go on the road. How do I do that? And and like the guy would kill all the time, and he never figured out how to get on the road, and he kind of like walked away from comedy, and like I guess that's sort of part of it. Maybe it's on him. If he really wanted to do it, he would have figured it out or whatever. But like, it's even like, I just wish like comedy clubs like, hey, on Monday night, come and audition. We either tell you if you're in here or you tell you if you're not in here. And then that's it. Instead, it's like this weird thing where you gotta like hang out, and then then you'd have a great set, but then the right person wasn't there to see it, and then I don't know. It's just so frustrating. I feel like does that make sense?
Yeah, there's no clear path at all. Especially now I don't even know if like. Yeah, at least there was a time when I do this late night appearance and that'll get me X amount of. But now it's like maybe if it goes viral, if it's on the right, if I talk about the right thing, it could. It's just so like you were saying. I think if I could change anything, I think it'd be the number of comics. I think we need a lot less comics.
They're gonna say a lot more.
We
need to just saturate the market even further.
Just a lot, and it's not just because like for me, then I'd get more stage time or whatever. Maybe I'd be the one who wouldn't get to do comedy anymore. I don't know, but it kind of gives. I don't know. We're already as just like a society, just so short and everything. We're not very patient at all. And I feel like having so many comics, if you hear a comic that says something that maybe you don't like, or they have one bad set or something, it's so easy to be like, well, I'm going to jump to this other comic and never watch you again, or not give you a chance. Or I don't know.
Because you get so many different
Yeah, it's just so easy to jump around it. Right. Yeah, like you can't really watch a career anymore,
right.
to be like, oh, this person's growing, or look what happened in this. But now it's like, I have 5,000 favorite comedians that I have to follow. I don't have time to watch other specials.
Yeah, that makes sense. And this is kind of like the viral generation, not herpes, but like the viral you just pop off and all of a sudden oh, I can do it, even though you have a bunch of people who are like comedian and they got 50 followers and stuff. But I'm just waiting for my one video to go viral and everything. And then, I feel like there's a lot more stage time that's lost to people who are just, they just have a huge following,
Yeah.
I just love the idea of if it's like a basketball game and for a long time there was 10 people on the floor. And then and everyone watching was just like, this is fun. And then one day, everyone in the stadium was like, let's all play. And the whole stadium came down to the court. And now it's like, well, I don't know if there's anyone watching this anymore.
Right.
I think it's just everyone trying to do it. And and it's fine. I get people who, I don't know, I almost I'll get people who follow me and then they unfollow me. And I'm like, oh, I guess I was supposed to follow them.
Yeah.
What is this?
The ratio.
Yeah, I people come up to shows and they ask me to follow them on Instagram more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's just it feels like, which is fine. I mean, I decided I wanted to do this. Why can't everybody decide they want to do this?
Yeah.
I guess. But there does feel like sometimes it's hard to gain any momentum of support if everyone's just trying to get support themselves. And I try to support people that I like, I guess. But that's interesting now. We live in a world now where everybody just wants to be famous, and
absolutely.
And Twitter is everybody can kind of dip their toes in the entertainment pool.
I did a show in the comedy mecca that is Barstow, California.
Oh, nice.
So I was there. It was a 4 p.m. show before the wet t-shirt contest. And we went, there were 5 comics and we just went up and just ate shit.
Yeah.
Just all 5 of us. The bar was set up so that everybody's backs was towards us. We were just kind of yelling nonsense. It was an all white crowd and all the comics were Mexican. It was the weirdest kind of mix of it was just a weird mix. But afterwards, we're standing outside contemplating suicide, and this old this lady, she's in her 70s, comes up to us, and she's just she has fake teeth and everything, and she's just all of my friends said that I should be a comedian. Mm-hmm. She's like, I think I'm gonna start going on the road and start doing this. And we're like, well, why are you here? She's like, I'm here for the wet t-shirt contest. I'm like, what? And she's like, they don't know. She's like, I got 3 nipples. And I was like, you might win on sheer quantity alone. And I was like, but it was so bizarre to me because that was the first time that really hit me in the face. I was like, you shouldn't be 70 starting anything,
Right.
You should be wrapping everything up.
Well, I would say you have one thing right. You live in Barstow. You should definitely get on the road. You should go other places.
Yeah.
You have that right.
Yeah. I say even with 2 nipples, you can get out of Barstow.
That was a weird one because we did Barstow, Hesperia, and Victorville. Those are all the shows we did. Humbles you, man.
That's a great circuit, man.
Humbles you for sure. But yeah, it's just so bizarre that and I've heard so many comics that I look up to complain about that and be like, well, this is an actor can just be like, oh, well, I'm gonna get into comedy. Comedy is almost a last resort for so many people, but then it's most of it we love it so much that it's just this is what we want to do. But other people are I'm going to try and get this on the back end.
So I feel I'm going to try to hit 3 points real super quick. And that's the idea of I love the idea of my 3 nipple talking points. First nipple. I love the idea of it being, the whole, was it Hannah Gadsby? Is that her name? Nanette. And everyone just this whole thing of well, that's not stand up and stuff. And I think that's sort of a stupid, there's no point in that conversation. Sam Kinison once said that the comedy stand-up is an art form. If you don't push like the boundaries of it, it dies as an art form. Which I'm not sure. I'm not sure Hannah would love the idea that I'm using Sam Kinison to like. To sort of back up her thing. But like, that's what I think that I think it's great that she like came out and like pushed. Stand-up can be this thing too. You know, I love the idea of us having more conversations about the other things stand-up can be as opposed to saying what it's not. Because we seem to be saying, this is nipple number 2, we can say that it can be just a meet and greet with a guy from a famous TV show.
Yeah.
You know, we can say that it's just, it can be, we seem to be wildly okay with stand-up being these awful things that are just famous person come up, you know, and just say hi to people for a while, you know, you're whatever. You get a million examples of that, you know, like that's not really stand-up. I don't think that's what Sam Kinison was talking about. Yet we seem to be more okay with that being stand-up. You know, I saw one that was like this, like, it was like 10 guys that take their shirts off and dance around like some sort of like male Chippendales comedy review. And like, why is that stand-up? But what Hannah does is not. And I think it's like, so we push it in awful boundaries and we don't push it in like interesting, cool boundaries. Yeah. And then I also feel like, I mean, people are pushing those boundaries, you know, but then you got like, but then you have like, and this is nipple number 3, you know, like we're okay with saying that a stand-up comedy show can just be a bachelorette party. And, you know, instead of like some sort of like challenging people's ideas of what certain, you know, perceptions of society are. Well, I don't know if that's really stand-up or not, but you know what is? A bunch of drunk girls with penis hats coming and screaming during entire show as if it was a Chippendales review. I mean, if I could eliminate one thing from comedy, bachelorette parties. It's just, and I get it's part of the game, you know, but like there's a thing where I feel what happens is there's so many different types of comics out there. And I think that people go to a show and they see a type of comic who is perfect for a bachelorette party. Busts the girls' chops the whole time, brings them on stage, makes fun of them. They love that they're the center of the whole thing. Some other girl is in the audience going, oh, this would be so fun. I wish this was my group of girls and my friends, and we had this experience. So then they come out, but then that comic is not there. Yeah. They get some other comic, you know, like you can't just take that to Stephen Wright, you know, and he like, hey, come up on stage, you know, like, and then they get mad, and then it isn't what they thought it was going to be. So then they start disrupting the show because they're disappointed, and now the whole show's ruined for everybody, you know. That's the one thing, if I could change about comedy, is no, just don't take it to bachelorette parties, or have like some sort of label that's like, this is a bachelorette party comedian. Yeah. You know, this is the type of guy, he's great for bachelorette parties. You know?
Yeah, he's the fun guy.
Yeah, I'm not a fun guy. That's what I'm saying, you know. If you're a bachelorette and you're coming to my show, I'm not fun. I'm a real drag for bachelorette parties.
I will say that was at least 4 or 5 nipples, but
I had a couple more nipples in the tit, too, I could have whipped out.
Oh my God, that's so much fun. So I guess piggybacking on that, I'm sorry we're getting deep with these questions, but do you believe that comedy is going in a positive direction, or do you think that like the bubble is going to pop relatively soon? Because I feel like, because comedy goes in like roller coasters, right? Like there's like its highs and its lows and its highs and its lows. Do you think we're due for another low, or do you think it's going to keep going up?
I hope that comics sort of figure out, because for me with YouTube and the internet and social media and all that, a lot of I mean, for lack of a better word, just like average normal people sort of hopped onto that and created these careers out of nothing. And I think there were all these people or comics who, you know, were really talented in figuring stuff out, but couldn't, you know, like bridge the gap between those two things. So I really hope like comedians figure out, sort of take over the comedy side of social media a little more, and that it's not, you know, just your average Joe forever on YouTube.
Southern Mama.
Yeah. Like I hope that we can, you know, see social media, because it will be around forever in some sort of way, as, you know, the next TV, and really like figure out what's the best way to take what we're doing here and kind of, I don't know, bring a little more talent.
Well, yeah, you had a
Really great nipple.
yeah, great nipple, man, great nipple. And I don't want to milk your nipple too much, but I do want to squeeze out this point. I think that the farm for a while was like people trained in live art, and then that got them to like some sort of media, and then they could tour off of that media to bigger houses or whatever. Now there's like, it does seem sort of like a reverse of like people get big on media and then they transition into live performances. And I don't know, who am I to say that that's wrong? I think that's always, as generations get older, they always sort of feel like their way was better. I'm sure there was people in vaudeville being like, it's two people. Hey, you don't have two people up there, and like, no, half as many people are getting work now. And, they probably had issues with that, but vaudeville definitely went away and one person stuck around. But, yeah, I mean, like, it kind of bothers me when I see like a person get like college gigs that like doesn't do stand-up. It just bothers me when people get stand-up gigs that don't do stand-up, I guess. Because you have all these people that like go out every night, sacrifice a lot of stuff, just sort of like pursue this thing. And God, it's sort of, sometimes I hate that I had this feeling recently, but I had a feeling recently. It was like, I almost feel like going out and doing stand-up every night is a waste of time, because I would be better off spending every night in front of my computer trying to crack some sort of internet, enthusiasm about me, because that I could tour off of that, because going out and doing stand-up every night in these shows around town doesn't gain you any sort of audience. It just makes you better at stand-up, which sometimes is a inconsequential aspect of a stand-up comedian. Like sometimes I feel like stand-up comedy is a lot like success in stand-up comedy is a lot like climbing a mountain. It has nothing to do with being funny. Like you gotta garnish this whole thing. And so is when that's like the reward system right now, I don't know if stand-up is going in a great direction. When it's sort of like be a meme guy, get viral videos, this fucking like YouTube, like this YouTube shit where it's like, I threw a chicken at an old lady, come and see me at the show, like
at Zany's.
Yeah. I talked to one of my cousins one time, and they were like, hey, so you do comedy, right? He's rattling off his favorite comics, and like, I've never heard of any of these people. And he was like, but then he looked at me suspicious, like I didn't do comedy. He's like, but you said you do comedy, right? Yeah. Didn't you live in Brooklyn? I was like, yeah. He's like, Williamsburg, right? I was like, yeah, right outside, yeah. And he's like, yeah, these guys all, and I found out he was talking about these YouTube guys. It took like 10 minutes of conversation. We're both going, wait, these are comedians? He's like, yeah, you don't? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I don't know. They have millions of views on YouTube. And I was like, they didn't do stand-up. They didn't do anything. I don't know. That's where I get a little like, sometimes I think I don't know. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I go to the UK and I saw a bunch of like really interesting stuff happening there. I don't know where the motivation is to do that type of stuff here right now, because it doesn't really seem to have a place right now. Yeah. You have very like social activism comedy right now, which is sort of taking the, is sort of taking the forefront of enthusiasm, and which is great. But otherwise, and then you have like famous on the internet, and it does sort of feel like people that are doing interesting live shows, I don't know where I don't know what the point is almost. If there's no reward system for it, I don't know what happens to the motivation to do that kind of comedy. That's where I get a little scared, I guess.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because I feel like, especially in the UK, they kind of hype their comics up a little bit more. Like you have these panel shows, right, that are just on mainstream TV, that is just every panel show has 5 comics that, you can go and watch them do traditional stand-up. But it's like also they're getting kind of the screen time, where I feel like now it almost seems like the goal is to be a movie star.
or something.
Yeah.
I mean, look at like Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, or like even like other comedic actors that it's like, well, even if stand-up was kind of like how they first got into the game, now they're transitioning into being moguls or something in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, I mean, you always had that, like, you know, in the 80s and 90s, you had to get a sitcom. That was like a big thing. But I just get scared when I never liked when I was first starting doing stand up. I hated when I saw people go on stage and do what they thought they were supposed to do. That I think is a bad place for stand up. When people are like, okay, I have to make fun of my appearance, number one. I have to say that I'm like if blank and blank had a kid, you know. I have to make fun of my ethnicity, talk about my childhood, talk about they thought that it was like this Mad Libs thing where you had to do all this stuff. I felt that's not a great creative thing for stand up in general. I think people trying different things and stuff. I love, you know, all the social activism comedy right now is great. It's probably the most important thing that's happening in stand-up right now. But when it can't be the only thing that happens in stand-up. And I think like when people start coming out and doing stand-up and they feel compelled that they have to give their like social activism take at the top and talk about like, you know, like this, and this. And I see 10 people in a row do that. Like, it's like, you have to at least do that in an interesting way if you're going to do that. And you definitely don't feel compelled that is exactly the type of comedy you have to do. Or if that is the type of comedy you want, you don't have to do it the same way as everybody else is doing, you know?
Yeah.
Because, I just like, it's like, all right, Trump joke, open with Trump joke, you know, open with, you know, something about, you know, cutting down this sort of, you know, mindset and did this, and this. And it's great. It's so hard. You know, it's funny because like it's really hard to sort of have any sort of critical thing about, you know, that type of comedy because it almost feels like you're cutting down the whole idea of that comedy. And it's not that. It's just the idea of like, if everybody, honestly, I think it does the whole, you know, like movement a disservice if everybody is sort of doing the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you, I kind of sort of on that note, I feel like, oh God! Now I lost my train of thought. I'm back to first nipple.
Grab that nipple back.
Yeah,
Don't let that
what was
nipple get
that?
away. Actually, I think
I'll
you
think
could
of it in a second. I had a
be
thing
arrested
and it was
for
going to be good, but I forgot. So
So everybody, just remember, it was gonna be.
it was
good.
going to be
Pause.
good.
Should
and,
we see? This is why you want to text instead of phone call. You know, like then you can walk around.
Exactly.
That's the other thing about like the text phone call thing is I can really think of a good clever thing for my next text.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
but phone call you're just like, oh fuck. You say shit.
This wasn't it, but this was a thought I had that's it's a little off topic. But do you feel like with social media and so much stuff being filmed, do you feel like attractive people are taking over again, just with all the? Because I feel like stand-up used to be where you go if you're not a leading man type, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And you end up in stand-up, and that's not to say, you know, a lot of those people end up going into movies and stuff like that, but they first get noticed for, you know, their talent just regardless of look. And I feel like looks, as good as we are now about like bringing diversity into acting and stand-up and pretty much everything, we're still really bad, if not worse now than ever, at making sure those people are attractive first.
Oh,
You know?
no! I've definitely thought that there is a, there's more. What do they call it? When you don't let people in? I don't know. Discrimination.
Yeah,
Discrimination
yeah.
towards ugly, non-attractive people. You know, because like a hot person, I've always thought a hot like non-white person will always get booked before an ugly white person. You know, like you know, no one's fighting for that.
Yeah,
The
no.
ugly, diverse people in general, you know? Even with like body shaming and stuff, like there is at least a little bit of like, well, let's start hiring more, you know, people that don't have like this Barbie physique or whatever. But still, face-wise, you're still sort of fucked face-wise if you have a bad face. It's not like I'm coming out and being like, I'm on the cover of Vogue. And it's just like, dude, your lower lip is above your eyebrow. I don't know. And then and this is, and not even, you don't even have like some sort of ailment. Just like you're just a guy who was born with an awful face and nobody needs it.
But if you look at comics from like even like 10, 15 years, like everyone was goofy looking.
Right.
There were very few like attractive, and maybe like they had a charm about them or whatever, which definitely helped, but still.
You had your, I don't know, your, I'm trying to think of a good looking comic. Robert Klein, is he a good, he's not, I don't know. Oh, I get him and Calvin. I get him and Calvin Klein and Kevin Klein mixed up. You know, I've seen comics go on stage though that are, I guess, good-looking comics, and they complain. Their complaint is, I have to work harder because you guys don't think I'm funny because I'm so good-looking. You know, and I was just like, and then Jared Logan the other day we were doing the bit thing, and he was like, I guess we can all find a reason why we can all find something about ourselves to be like, well, I'm having problems because I'm short and bald, and you know, I'm having problems because I'm too good looking, and I'm having problems. Like, we can find some reason.
It's always something.
I remembered what I was.
Oh, what is it?
You found the nipple?
It wasn't that great. I was just gonna ask if it bothers you, because I noticed, like you were saying, everybody coming up sort of saying the same things. Those things are still getting laughs, and arguably, like, they get the biggest laughs. But doesn't it bother you when you hear a comic say like a really hacky joke and it crushes, and you're like, how do they not know with all the TV and the internet out there that like that joke has been done?
They're not as inundated in it as we are. I guess.
That makes sense. But sometimes it's like I'm like, I've seen that meme. You know?
Right.
And it's just crushing as a joke.
I work with someone who she's from my area. She has like huge following, like 250,000 followers or something. And she's doing comedy, like just, you know, the open mic circuit, and she's putting in the work for sure. But Dice got a hold of her in terms of like started posting her pictures on his Instagram and like being really creepy, like, who is this girl? And she commented on his picture and she said, "Sweetie, I don't know who you are, but if you'd ever like some stand-up lessons, please let me know." Legitimately not, because I talked to her, legitimately not knowing who Dice was.
Really?
Yeah. And just, and I realized like, a lot of these people, like, they're not like I consider myself a comedy nerd. You know, before I ever got into stand up, I was always studying and watching and doing all this different stuff. But it's like there's people out there who don't know who Dice is, who don't know who Kinnison is, who don't know, like, you know, the forefathers. And it's like, it just blows my mind. I'm like, these are working comics. Well, like, at least in their areas that are like, they don't know like who came before.
I think that's a product. I think that's always going to happen, though. You know, because even for all those people that knew who they were, like, that, you know, did you know who Milton Berle was?
Right.
Jack Benny?
Come on, you know Chappie Lindman, right? You don't know Chappie? He had the Eagles fly over Maryland bit. Oh, come on, Darrells McStevens, really? The old Oakley boys? There's comics that I came up with that, I mean, I could rattle off a couple names right now of like buddies, you know, that just, I'll be like, they had no interest. They never watched any comics. Ever. I just had another conversation with a friend of mine. She's like so funny. She's one of the funniest people. She was like, I never watched any stand-up growing up, you know, and so crazy. And she's great. I can also be like, well, maybe it's good that, you know, like, maybe that she wasn't influenced by people and was able to have a unique voice or whatever. But like, there is a part of me that's like, how do you not? It's weird. It's just being like, I'm good at baseball, never cared for the sport. You know, like, how did you not? Like, every baseball fan like watched, you know, so and so growing up or whatever. I used to sneak out of my room to like watch, you know, like when comics would come on the Tonight Show, and I would sneak out and watch them, you know, peek, and then I just loved that so much. And I watched SNL, and I watched like, when I was first allowed to leave my subdivision on my bike, I rode to the video store and rented Stephen Wright and the Rodney Dangerfield New Comic Showcase. You know, like, I just love stand up that much. And then you have people that are just like, I never watched it. I never watched late night sets. Never had a desire to be on late night sets. I just, you know, and I think they just found, I don't know why. I was like, well, why did you do it then? And they're like, well, I thought I could do it. That's so weird.
It's bizarre, right?
Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's crazy because like, yeah, you do have so many people that that's like, oh yeah, I never really, I never looked into it. I never did it. But then I get what you're saying though. When the jokes that they're saying are like, oh well, yeah, of course you could hold your keys in your hand and be Wolverine, like defending yourself in a parking lot or something like that. It's like I've definitely heard the people do, or like the stereotypical jokes of like, the Mexican coming going, oh yeah, and then like this weird English word my dad always said or something, which is like a Freddie Soto like bit, but it is weird. And then when you do kind of say, oh, that's just a heads up, that's this guy's joke. Oh, I never heard of that guy before.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't even know. I don't even know if where I was going with it was even the comic. I mean, it is the comic's fault, but I just get mad at audiences sometimes. How did you not? No, I mean, one, just because you said it, but it came to mind is, I mean, I think I hear every night somebody say that referring to like, if there are anybody in the crowd isn't Mexican, and be like, oh, they're in the kitchen or something about Mexicans in the kitchen.
Or Trump,
I hear that
there he is.
every night, right? And
Security.
it's like, but it'll still kill. And it's just like, at what point is this? I mean, yeah, it's the comic's fault, but also at what point is it the audience's fault for being like, how do you not know that everybody does
My
this?
dad is maybe my biggest fan, aside from me. I'm a huge fan of myself. I have all my albums.
He has all his nipples.
But like, I mean, I like try to, to me, the most fun thing about comedy is seeing how, where you can take it. But that being said, I mean, I definitely have my least unique material, and that's my dad's favorite material. Like I have this like chunk on airplanes, and that's his favorite. He thinks that's the best. That's the funniest stuff I've ever written. He wants me to do Arnold Schwarzenegger on stage because I'll like do it around the house,
Yeah.
But he's like, you should do that on stage, and I'm like, but I can't. And he's like, why? And he's like, because that's just everyone's done it. It's like so done. He's like, yeah, but if people laugh, like it's so funny though. He's like, what's the point? And I was like, yeah, and he's sort of right. Like, if I got up on stage and did Schwarzenegger for like 20 minutes, it would probably be the best show these guys have ever seen in their entire life. They don't care, I care, If one comedy savvy person is in the audience and sees me do that, I'll be embarrassed forever, But like, it's like, and I'm like, even with the airplane stuff, I'm like, this is like just the most done topic, but stand up is all coming up with things that everyone thinks of that, but no one's ever thought, and like that's the stuff that resonates the most. That's why when that meme that you see on stage, the reason that meme went viral is because everybody was like, yes, and people like want stuff that resonates with them more than anything. And maybe we get like snobby and that we're like, we can kind of get outside of ourselves. I think most people go to like, I was talking to Mike Racine one time, we were talking about like audiences want everything to be about them, and just the idea of like a lot of people like go to an art museum and they're just sort of like, why aren't all the pictures of me? They can't sit there and be like, I don't even know this person you're painting, like what's the point? I don't get anything out of it. We can kind of be like, oh, I get what they're, but like some people like, I don't know. That's why selfies are the best. That's why selfie museums are becoming more popular than regular museums, because people are like, I'd rather see me the whole time than somebody else, Yeah. So I don't know. Do you ever find yourself doing the flip, like meeting someone in something else, like a magician, and being like, I love when you saw the lady in half, or, and they're like, you like that one? Like, that's the oldest. I can't think of a good example of it, but
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. If I ever do, I feel like I can't think of a good example right now, but like I do, I'm like, oh, I bet they hate when you ask this.
Well, I'm sure I ask Uber drivers the same question that everybody asks them every day. Maybe that's sort of the same.
Something like that.
And you think you're so, you get proud of yourself for asking it. And they're like, yep, get that a lot.
Yeah. Where are you from? So where are you from? Are you from you know, like you want to ask what country, you know, like, and it was like a cab thing in New York all the time. And then after a while, I was just like, these guys don't want to, you get the same question, you know, every single time. And like, that is the equivalent of them. They have to be like, really, this is interesting to you?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like let's talk about anything else, who we are as people, not like, I don't know. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
equivalent or
Yeah.
not.
No,
Do you
that
think
makes sense.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no,
I don't
go
know
for it.
why. I'm starting to ask a lot of questions. I feel I did become the interviewer.
I said when it started, you're the host of this show.
Do you think people want something different out of comedy nowadays?
Depends on who it is. I think if you consume a lot of comedy, I think yes. I
Yeah.
think
But as a whole, do you think we've changed what we want out of comedy? Is it just to laugh, or do we want to learn? Or
right now people want commentary on the social state of things more than anything else. That's
Yeah.
the number one thing people want out of their comedy right now. Whenever I see anyone like list their favorite comics, it's always 5 super social commentary type comics. I think this is what people want, because people want, like, they want to see a version of themselves on stage. I feel like that. You know, I feel like if you go and see like a show, you know, I think my favorite comics are people that Steve Martin, Andy Kaufman, Brian Regan. It's a version of myself, you know,
Yeah.
like silly, absurd, you know, fuck with the norm, you know, like that's what and I think when people are like, they like, you know, like, I don't know, a certain comic who's just like, you go to the club, you know, like he's like, I think an audience is like a bunch of meatheads that go to the club and that's their favorite comic, you know, because it's like, that's what I would talk about on stage. And so I think a lot of people right now are like, people are so obsessed. I mean, Twitter is sort of turned into mostly, you know, just raging about the, you know, ridiculous thing that happened in the news that day. And it's mostly that. And so if people are like mostly like consumed with everything that's happening right now, I think that's the version of themselves they want to see on stage right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wonder if, you know, because even just looking at social media, how to, you know, like you were saying, Twitter is very opinionated. It's all about what's your opinion on this thing, whereas Instagram is almost the exact opposite. It's just kind of like, hey, look how cool I am, you know. And so and people want different things out of there. But it seems like, yeah, I guess like you were saying that, okay, well, what do people want stand-up to be right now? And it seems like they want it to be Twitter, but it's like, but is there... Are there that many different types of people and what they want out of comedy, or do we feel like?
I think there's if there's too much, I feel like if there's too much like politics on like one lineup, then definitely people are kind of like ease towards that relief, you know, in the lineup that's like, oh, we just hear about Trump all day. Like, I'd love to like sit in on a show and like because like I have my list of people that I love, like the comics that I love. Nick being one of them. Not you, Daniel. No, I'm just joking. I just want, you're my least favorite nipple.
That dick pic tweet got me a lot of mileage.
The Richard Pictures tweet really boosted you. But like, and I'm gonna give some people like a couple shout outs. Like, I love Gene Pompa. Right. And he's just because I relate to him, you know, I was always a big Geraldo guy, but then like also like old school, like I love Jonathan Winters. Like that's somebody that I just looked up towards like for different aspects, but like definitely like you were saying, Nick, how like you kind of like put things like, oh, I can relate to this person because of this. I could relate to this person because of that. One of the people that's killing it right now in the LA comedy scene is Thomas Dale.
Yeah.
Thomas Dale is killing it. Right. But when you go and see him, it's, you know, it's not really like politics. It's him, you know, going in and kind of being silly or being an exaggerated version of himself. And it's just, it just kills. I think it kind of depends on like what the crowd is and like what they're in the mood for. Cause I've definitely heard like audience members say like, oh, thank you for like not being all political because just like, we just needed a relief from that because that's what everybody's doing. But like, I guess if you're doing it in your own unique way, like you're going to get through with them. Like, yeah.
It's tough because I feel like, you know, it also probably, like you were saying, depends on the mood of the crowd and definitely politically which side you're on and how extreme it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, it's tough when, you know, there's, especially politically, it feels like a volcano is exploding and we're right outside of it going like, hey, let's not talk about the volcano that's exploding for 30 minutes. And you're like, how do I not talk about it? But if you're sitting there going, guys, there's a volcano, it's like, well, shut up already. And it's like, it's so hard. What do you do? Because you can't talk about it the whole time.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, you got some people going, it's irresponsible for you to not talk about the volcano. And someone's like, enough with the volcano already.
Yeah, it is really split. And even like you come back to like Twitter, like we're making this full circle. Like there's people who like get mad at you when you're not using your platform for a certain thing, you know? Like I used to tell a joke that was so dumb, but I said, I hate it when chicks ask what are we, especially after you just kidnapped them. Like it's just so dumb. And the messages that I got about like, you're promoting rape culture. How about you come out and be anti this and be very public about that? It's like, what are we as a group that like we're now telling other people how to use their own platform?
I mean, if you were like, if that was every punchline that you did was sort of that, I could understand someone sort of being like, listen, you're in general sort of like perpetuating the idea that this is why this is not taken so seriously in society, you know? But I don't know if with one joke in the whole, you know,
just
one
an
fly
off
in the
tweet or
soup,
something.
Yeah, I mean, like, but like, I also feel like, you know, because this is the problem with like someone's sort of like, you know, trying to take you to task for one joke, you know, is that there's a reactionary comedy that emerges out of that. And that is the anti, it's almost this comedy that's rewarded for saying the most awful thing you could possibly say, where saying the worst thing is celebrated more than the jokes themselves, you know? And I think that when the more you like push back on like one individual joke, that person that said that thing to you has their right to say whatever they want, but like also like pick your battles too. Like just like be like, I don't know, you could find some person that any joke would be like sort of, you know, offensive towards, but like but the more you gotta, if you don't pick your battles right and you just go after every single thing that's said, that just causes the alt-right is just reactionary to like, you know, PC culture in a certain way, you know? And then you have these comics that are just coming out and they're just doing it just because they got pissed off at people sort of picking apart. They got tired of comedy police. They got tired of the comedy police sort of thinking that they can sort of write a blog about somebody and try to take their career down because they made the wrong joke. And then, you know, you got like this guy in Canada who made a joke about a kid. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he there's this kid that like, you know, he made this. He was like supposed to like die, like, and his make-a-wish was like to like, it was some like meet Celine Dion or like go to Europe or something like that. And then like the 10 years after the kid was still alive and he made a joke. I think his name was Ward is his last name, but like he made a joke which is like, I thought this kid was supposed to die. I thought that was like the whole point of it. Like, he got this free trip for nothing, you know, and like say that whatever you want. But this is why we're a different country than Canada, because Canada, like, he got fined. He had to pay, like, all this money.
Mike Ward. $42,000.
Yes. And so, like, that's like...
Over a joke. You know, he made one joke, like it or don't like it, but, like, okay, we have different laws here, but that same... just the perception, you know, of like wanting to fine him all that money, wanting to sort of like take him to court and all that stuff. We have that here. It's just on Twitter instead of in our court system. And I don't know if that is, you know, if his whole act was making fun of cancer kids, you know, and his whole act is about like all this stuff, it'd be one thing. But like, you know, like because of that, I'm sure that's going to cause a reaction. It's that type of stuff that causes this other type of comedy that I don't like. It's not for me. I don't like rape joke comedy, you know. If you want to make one rape joke, I don't know, whatever. But like, you know, but when people are just like, their whole act is like sort of like, yeah, we can make rape jokes and we can do this and that. And, you know, that emerges out of this reaction toward, you know? And you know what I thought about? I thought about rape jokes this past week. And I've been thinking about like, because there is like a weird thing of like, why are cancer
like cancer jokes, wheelchair jokes, rape jokes. There's all these victim jokes, and like it feels like rape jokes are the worst. And I'm trying to figure out like, well, why? Like, it's not up to me to say if cancer or rape, which one is worse.
Yeah.
That's an apple and oranges situation. But I think the problem of why rape jokes are worse is because we all sort of decided that cancer is bad.
Yeah.
In society, we all say cancer is awful. But we really haven't said that about rape yet. And I think that's why the rape jokes are worse, you know?
Yeah.
Because if some people, if half of society was like, you know, the guy was kind of asking for cancer, you know, like, you know, and maybe I just made a rape joke on accident, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think and then people would be like, if that was the case, then when people make like cancer jokes, then people would be like, you see, this is why people don't take cancer seriously in society, because half of you guys make jokes about it and you don't think it's a big deal. It perpetuates this whole thing, you know? And I think with like sexual assault, it's the same thing. When you got like half our country doesn't think it's a big deal, and then you make a joke about like that, then like it's sort of like, I don't know, does one joke cause sexual assault? No. Do all of them together and every single thing in our society sort of like make people not think about it? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, we got rid of blackface for a reason. You know,
Bring back blackface. If you could take one thing from this podcast, that's what it is.
Right.
I mean, to me, the biggest difference would be that people cause rape, whereas cancer, I mean, yeah, sure, scientifically maybe what you eat or whatever, but for the the most part, it just sort of happens to you.
But murder is like different too, you know? But I still think we all agree murder's bad.
Right.
And we're all on the same page that murder's bad. That's why you can make a murder joke and it's not as like a big deal.
Murder with a murder joke.
Yeah.
That was weak. Never mind. Hey, editor, edit that out. I'm the editor. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like we could keep going and going with this. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. We're wrapping up towards the end.
Okay.
What I like to do is fire off a couple quick fire questions.
Oh, great.
We'll call it a day.
Oh, great.
All right. So the first question is, if you could get coffee with someone alive or dead, who would it be?
Dead.
Yeah, I'd go live. I'd go live.
I hate you guys so much.
It's my favorite.
I hate you guys so much. I just went from loving you guys to all right.
It's a cheap date when they're dead. They don't order. You know, you can get yourself twice as fancy of a coffee because you got done somebody else.
All right, we're going on to the next question. What smell reminds you of home?
Oh, I hate
Rotting flesh? Because everyone I used to have coffee with at home was dead. That's why.
I mean, I don't have a better answer for this, but I grew up in Fresno where it literally just smells like cows. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I could say shit on here,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
shit.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, literally.
Edit that out.
that like outdoor rural like smell.
Yeah.
I always think of back
Yeah.
home. So, gotta love
the
it.
smell that you get when you're not quite in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Not quite. All right. If you weren't a comic, what would your career be? Tie that one to dead coffee.
Yeah. I don't think I would say I don't have a good answer for that because I feel like I've had so many reasons already to want to get out that if I had a good answer, I would have taken that.
Yeah.
I wanted to be an astronaut when I was little. I've always liked space a lot. Maybe something space related. I don't think I could physically be an astronaut, but something space related.
I want to be an astronaut when I was little.
Yeah.
I want to be a tiny astronaut guy. I think once I hit 8, I think it's not as interesting anymore. But I like the idea of like a little 8-year-old me in space.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what the world needs. Baby astronaut.
Baby astronaut. Don't touch that. Don't touch it. Guys, we got to childproof this space station. Otherwise, they're going to like... It's got like plastic things and all the millions of plugs and buttons all over the place.
I actually have a joke. The only reason I mention that because I don't want you to think I stole this from the conversation we had at the podcast. But when I was 6, I wanted to go to space. And it's like one of the cockiest things ever to do as a kid to be like, I'm done with everything. It's been 6 years and I'm done with her.
Yeah.
Move
You're
on.
already over it.
All right. And the last question. If you guys could go back in time and give barely starting you a piece of advice, what would it be? So this is like
fresh in comedy Daniel and fresh in comedy Nick, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Be beautiful.
Yeah, get on Instagram 10 years before it's a thing. I think one thing is, and I don't know, so much of my advice I feel like come off as like sort of negative, but it's just like, I don't know, it's sort of, but then also like positivity can be naive, you know, like which is it? You know, you either are like a negative person or you're either like real about something and then it's interpreted negative, or you're positive and you just sort of live in an unrealistic sort of like
the volcano's going off. And
yeah, we're gonna be fine, and it's just like you're not gonna be fine. Yeah, with that attitude, you're not. Like, come on, you know. Like,
Yeah.
I think I kind of realize that you can't just be funny. It's like it's sort of like I think I definitely was just like I think before I did stand up I was like, you know, like, oh, if I could just like do well, that'd be so crazy, you know. And then it's just like if I could just like, and then eventually it's like if I could just like be funny for 45 minutes straight, I could be a stand up comic. That's not it. You know, like you can be funny for 45 minutes straight and you could call a comedy club that and send them a tape of you being funny for 45 minutes straight. And they're like, but do you draw? You know, like can you bring people in? Can you sell tickets and stuff? Because I got 1,000 guys that can be funny for 45 minutes straight.
Yeah.
And just be like, oh shit, really? You know, like you just think that like if I just go up and up and do all the well, it'll help you. It might open the doors, but like it's like have another. I don't know whether it's like act, you know, work on, especially now we live in a world, there's no reason that you're just not constantly, if this is the game, you know, and we have internet models that are touring off of their like Instagram videos that are just like, what not to do with a girl. I'm not calling you back. 3 million views. You know, it's like if you're gonna be funnier than them, then be funnier with them. You know, like it's everyone, and also like everybody has some obstacle against them.
Yeah.
Whether it's whatever. You know, I mean, pendulum's going a different way nowadays, and people that got slighted with opportunity in the past are getting more now, and but everyone has their obstacle, and so like don't think that you have one that no one else has, and you know, sort of say fuck that, you know, and just sort of like do whatever you can, write as many scripts as you can, you know, like especially comics now, like I just want to get an agent and a manager. It's like, and then what? Well, then I'll show them my 45 minutes of me being funny, and they're like, they can't do shit with that, you know. Like have like movie scripts and TV scripts and acting and all that kind of stuff, you know. I mean, do as much. I'll lamely plug something right now, but like I did a thing called K-Rock 90 Point Buzz, which is like this like FM radio station comedy thing. It's got all these like, you know, like songs and sketches and stuff like that, you know. And like, I feel like I put it out over the summer. I think that like that type of stuff, I don't know, it was fun to do. Yeah. You know, and like sometimes when I'm doing like stand up over and over and over and I get frustrated and stuff, it's like that project was so fun to do. Like, why not? Anytime you crawl out of stand up a little bit and get to be funny in another way, it's always like, isn't it always like interesting to like, I don't act a shit ton, but I have a blast every time I do it, you know. Writing a sketch, even writing sketches with different people I've never written sketches with before is fun. Right. Yeah. I mean, you did improv in college. That was so fun. Yeah. You know, I always say do as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. I don't know if I would tell myself anything differently, because it's like, just keep working. It's so hard to have regrets when so much of stand-up is luck. Yeah. Just I mean, obviously you have to put in a ton of work, but like there's also so much of it is what people want right now, what you're where you are, who you met, what a certain show that you did with, and it's just like you can't, if you start regretting those things, you're just gonna fall down a rabbit hole of just like, well, I wish I was at the right place at the right time. And like, okay, so we all do. Like,
that's funny. The idea of like, what if I could go back, tell me all my stuff. You know, and then
just work on luck.
Yeah, and then or you know, or that version of me like did do you just do on luck, or just do like, you know, maybe I just did more scripts and stuff. Maybe realize I had to do stuff outside of just being naive, I think it was just stand up, and then get to a point where someone goes, if you could go back, and then that version of me has to go back, and then he goes back, and it turns into a loop over and over and over. There's always going to be a version of me, like the 10th version. I'm just like this. I got all this work done because one time the advice was like, just be a good looking Instagram guy, you know? And then like, I don't think there would ever be a version of me that didn't have one thing to go back and give advice to, you know? Like, you can't regret everything. But
We just created the butterfly effect.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this Comedy Pop-Up podcast. I had a lot of fun talking comedy with you guys. I'd love to have you guys back in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can people find you guys? What do you guys got coming up?
I have this. It's Monday right now, right?
This is Monday.
It's Monday. Okay. This Wednesday in 2 days, I have an album coming out. Which
great.
Yeah, so it's on everything, iTunes, Amazon, all that. I have a show for it, release show. Sorry, Tuesday it comes out. Wednesday's a release show at the Ontario Improv. People can add me online at Dan Eachus, EACHUS, or DanielEachus.com. And I have free tickets for Ontario, and find out how to get the album and all that.
What's the name of the album?
Carry the Pillows.
Carry the Pillows.
Yeah.
Daniel Eachus. Nick?
Get Carry the Pillows.
Yeah.
That's my first plug. I'm going to be at the Comedy DC Loft and DC Comedy Loft. I'm dyslexic. I'm going to be there at the end of December, so come on out. And then get K-Rock 92 Point Buzz, the album I mentioned. It's on like all platforms. Did you do all platforms?
I went through a label and they did like stream. It's on streaming and Amazon. I don't know.
Do you have physical copies? I do not have physical copies.
I do, and it's
nice.
funny because those have been selling. I have a download card and I have physical, and people keep buying the physical, yeah.
Really? Over the download card?
Which is crazy. I almost didn't get physical.
Damn hipsters.
Yeah, people don't know what to do with download cards sometimes. I had download cards. For Amusement Only is another album I did, but like, I had download cards for that, and people were just like, I want something. How do I put this into my...
Yeah.
They're just sliding the postcard into the CD player.
Yeah, the CD player and stuff. You know, when people do shows, they want something tangible. I almost feel like I really would love to make some vinyls because I almost feel like that would sell better.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, because people like...
A buddy does that, and he says he sells a good amount.
Because if you have a record player, you're like kind of always itching for a reason to buy something.
Yeah.
And I think those are cool.
Yeah. Add Nick Vatterott.
At Nick Vatterott. NickVatterott on the internet.
What was yours?
At Dan Eachus, EACHUS.
All right, guys, this has been the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. I've been your host, Paul Antonio. You could follow me at the Paul Antonio. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Thank you. Bye-bye.